Alright, welcome to the Franchise Time Machine. I actually don't know if we're going to get to this experiment tonight. I'm not feeling great, so we're going to do the PTCS standings update, and then we'll see how things are going. And then I'll either cut bait at that point, or maybe we'll try to at least set up the experiment. I don't know if we'll be able to get through it. Relio, good seeing you in the chat. I'll probably see you in Ophi stream later tonight. But the latest standings update came out, so we're gonna go ahead and see how we're doing in week 3 of qualifying for PTCS number 3. So this is week 1. Week 2. I think between week 1 here and week 2, we gained some momentum in live a little bit. Solidified some positions in traditional, slipped in others. And so we'll see where we are in week 3. Wasted Night, thank you for the scritches for Crouton. He is right here by my feet. So he is getting his scritches right now. Thank you very much. All right. So, if you're new to PTCS or new to Perfect Team, actually, let me log in first. Go to standings. The top 128 for the period. It's usually a 4-week, sometimes a 5-week period. So here, we're going to look at the week, but the period is weeks 9 through 12. So this is a 4-week period. I think they've all been 4-week periods so far. Occasionally there'll be a 5-week period, which kind of changes the strategy a little bit too. So the top 20 each week get bonus clubhouse stars. And we are in the top 20 with the studs and duds TTC theme team. And we're also in the top 30, which doesn't help us for the week, but it does help for the period. Yes, look at that. Smiley Face Jane in second place, 183 points. I think Smiley Face Jane is back in Perfect Team. Have you figured out something that you're doing differently, Smiley Face Jane, or do you think it's just the RNG is finally evening out in your favor? So yeah, that's a big week for Smiley Face Jane. Alright, let's look at the period now. Smiley Face Jane at number 6. Like the top 50 here for the period will get bonus points. Smiley Face Jane said partially RNG going in her favor, but for Iron mostly you're pretty stacked. Is that stacked with like variance and getting him boosted and everything? There's the Nolan Network at number 24. So we had a big week, but we're not in the top screen. We're usually not. I'm usually just like kind of sliding in. 32nd place, pretty good, just outside the top screen. That's a big move too. We moved from 123rd place to 32nd place. That's a almost 100 place improvement. And that was all just updating rosters and not even adding variants, just updating rosters. So, and a lot of it's just applying the stuff that we're kind of learning from our experiments here to my teams. So, there's not a 1-to-1 between the base game and Perfect Team, but I do think the fundamentals I think are still helpful. Hooked on Streamer Phonics in 47th place. We were in 104th place last week. All of this is just updating rosters, not even variant cards. So it's it goes to show you can still be competitive. Now, and look, it's not that I don't want variant cards. It's just I haven't had the time or the perfect points to do it. Um, like last cycle, I'll probably start doing it at some point, and it does get easier to consistently win at that point. Um, but I was also usually like a month or so behind the meta on the variants, which just made them more affordable. Spike Face Chain has a lot of L5 variants, mostly not meta ones, but a lot of guys are great. Oh, that's the other thing too. That's right. Thanks for reminding me. I would also get variants that are kind of specific use cases. All right, and then the franchise team is now up to 58th place. They were 75th place. So just in the strength of some roster updates, we're now in the top 60, top half, with all three of the Iron Squads. So that's awesome. And what did the cutoff move to? So now I feel very good about the Iron Squads. I don't think I have to worry about them the rest of the cycle here. There's Laptop Pound at 72nd. 128th is 70 points. Oh, also the pace of the cutoff moving slowed down too, so that probably also helped my teams a little bit. All right, let's look at bronze. Take a peek at the week. Oh, for the experiment, Senor? Yeah, hopefully we'll get to the experiment tonight. Yo, that's right. Z Grizzly played dead ball last night, and so had a player with 57 triples. I think we looked it up. The record was 33 or 32. So just destroyed the record for single season triples. So gap in speed, definitely something that Z Grizzly's team could relate to. All right, this is for the week, so top 20. I don't think I see any late night crew folks in there. A lot of familiar names, but not late night crew. There's Laptop on a 25th. All right, let's see for the period. Now bronze, we've just been kind of barely getting by. I did do some bronze updates too, but not as much as the iron. There's Low Diamond Phillips at 87th place. We actually lost some ground with that team. But they're still in the top 100, so that's good. 128 qualifies. Oh, Georgia Carolina, 91st place. We moved up 20 spots. So both teams now in the top 100, and 128 qualify. So it feels pretty safe. We'll have to keep performing, but once those rosters are updated, they tend to keep performing for a little while. Then they'll start to decline as new cards come out. And then what's the cutoff in here on bronze? 69 points. Very nice cutoff score, 69 points. Again, that cutoff, it was about 25 points per week the first 2 weeks, and then it just moved up 20 points. So the velocity slowed down quite a bit. Now let me just see if some of these iron teams play. No, actually, it's just the sport of the franchise team that plays live bronze. Yeah, they're nowhere, so we won't track bronze for that. Okay, then we play a little silver. 2 accounts play silver. Check for the week. EVC in 3rd place. Nice. Hey, look at that. My main account's in 13th place in silver. Again, no variance. So that goes to show you can be pretty successful without variance right now. Oh, that's right. So I face change is a good point. There are more tournaments now. Also, I think people were probably focused on PTMS prep last week, and so with that gone, I think there might be more focus. So the cutoffs might move faster. Um, so Smiley Face Jane mentioned more tournaments, and the PTCS cutoff is this happens. This is the last week of qualifying for the next period. I'm also adding in the fact that it was PTMS last week, and now people will be refocused on PTCS this week. So I think there are a few factors that probably led to the slowdown last week, and will lead to an acceleration during the week we're in right now. But yeah, 13th place for silver. We moved up 75 places. Again, just from some roster updates. That's crazy. And did not buy a single variant during that time either. Alright, and then the llamas. 38th place. $51 points. Alright. And then we'll go to, let's do draft daily. I've been struggling in draft daily after having a good period 1, I think it was. Top 20. Wow, this is insane. Whoever JAW is, they have 2 alts, second and third in daily. 65 tournaments between them. That is a lot of work to do that many drafts and rosters and pitching staffs, and that's amazing. That's oh, wow. You can't, because you can't just cycle through a bunch. You have to be good too. So they're doing both. That's impressive. Laptop at 22nd, just outside the bonus start. Oh, look at this. On the first screen, 25th place for the week is the main account. All right, we had a good bounce back week then. That's nice. Because we were in 360th place after the first 2 weeks. I doubt we had a similar bounce back though with the llamas. All right, let's look at the period. I was looking to see that account that had the big week. Did they maybe just start playing, or did they just have a hot week? There's laptop at 37. To get the top 50 for the period are going to get bonus clubhouse. Or Smiley Face Jane at 43rd. So if she can hang on there, she'll get bonus clubhouse stars. There's Fussmucker has been back for PT27. It's been nice seeing Fussmucker's name in some of the leaderboards. Yeah, a 13th place week might not have been enough to get me. No, there we are. We're in 124th place. We're just qualifying after a 13th place week. That's goes to show how much velocity there is in draft daily. It is a real grind. So we're at 180 points. And then what's the cutoff? Probably not far. 178. We're in by 2 points. And have not seen the llamas yet. We're just gonna have to look them up. We're probably way out. Yeah, 408th place. $89 points. All right, let's look at Draft Weekly. Sounds like Ezra might be resuming streaming tomorrow night, which would be nice. I've been missing OOTP After Dark, especially those seventh inning stretches. For those of you who don't know, Ezra Denny, um, great OTP streamer, West Coast late night, starts around, I want to say 8:30 Pacific time most nights. Give him a shout out. He's been off streaming for, I think it'll be about a week when he starts back up again on Wednesday. He has some IRL stuff going on, so he'll be back. Be nice. There's the holler at 16th place for the week, so he'll get some bonus clubhouse stars. Let's look at the period. I also qualify every account in this category, and now this period we might not get any. I guess I don't know. I can't just be RNG. I think that's just fundamentally my mental model for drafting is just not matching up with PT27 like it did for PT26. There's the holler at 47th place, so for the period he'll also get some clubhouse stars if he can hang on. Yeah, we're not gonna have anyone qualifying right now. What's the cutoff? 50 points. Man, we couldn't even get 50 points. That's pretty bad. Low Diamond Phillips was in qualifying position last week, but they have dropped to 151st. Again, if you sit still, the cutoff will go right past you, which is what happened here. We had 41 points last week. We didn't get enough points to keep up with the cutoff, so now we're out of qualifying position. $151 still higher than you? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just have not been drafting all this period. By this period, I mean, sorry, this cycle since PT27. There's my face Jane, a very nice ranking of 169. With the Fargo Fielders. I'm going to have to do the search. Oh, there's Studs and Duds at 192nd. Still in the top 200, so that's salvageable. And that's actually a move up of about 180 spaces, so that's promising. At least the trend is in the right direction. I just don't think I've been winning weeklies like I did in 26. It seemed like every few days I was winning a weekly in 26, and just hasn't been happening in 27. I think also too the competition maybe has gotten better. There are more players, and there are more like players who seem interested in learning and getting better. So I think, but that's a good thing, right? So the competition is getting better. Georgia Tech in mind, 201st place. So I got a bunch of teams just outside the bubble. That with you know if we spike one or two deep runs, I think we can get in. But you know you only get so many shots at it too. And then if you Jim unknown them like I've done recently, that doesn't help. Just has a lot of IRL stuff going on and end up missing. Just forgetting to submit. Oh wait, that was Hooked on Streamer Phonics. I put it in the wrong spot. Hooked on Streamer Phonics is usually a theme team. I have not set it up as a theme team yet. I actually don't know if I will. I'm kind of annoyed at the randos and EVC's chat who are like trying to tell me what rules I should be setting for my team, and I'm like, I've looked at the data. I know how many names qualify. I know how many cards are associated with those names. It's just like you don't even know, and you're trying to tell me my business. So it was annoying enough to the point where I haven't even set it up yet as a theme team. Alright, I'm just going to look up the franchise team because they're nowhere to be found. Oh, that's right. I switched them to daily. So I have to go back to draft daily. I switched them to be the team I'm going to try to qualify for the Laptop Hound tournament. We're 124th for the period. So we're just qualifying. So we really got to keep up there. And those are hard tournaments too, because the competition is very good in those tournaments. So as hard as is it to keep up in daily, it's a little extra hard to keep up in that one. Oh, I was looking at franchise. This franchise is at 178th. That's even worse. 156 points. Alright, so before we do the live, this is what it looks like right now. And we've really solidified our position in the traditionals, but we're nowhere on drafts. We've got one barely in qualifying in daily. The rest are not qualifying right now at all, which is a big switch from last cycle. I was basically like consistently qualifying in draft weekly, and the traditionals were a little more hit or miss. This is a flip flop from PT26. Yeah, I just got to figure out what I need to do better. And then let's get live for the week. The thing is, I don't play it all live. I think a lot of these teams, like the number of tournaments they're in, I think they're really focusing on live. I'm playing about 2/3 as many as some of these teams and half as many as some. And so I've really got to hit some wins here or some deep runs to qualify. But we are in the top 10 for the week with the main account. And Smiley Face Jane top 7, or I should just say number 7. Great finish for Smiley Face Jane there in live. Smiley Face Jane playing 51. So up there with some of these folks like Rich Grisham who really focus on live. Yeah, you only play live. Yeah, see, I'm playing about half as many lives. But that's great. I mean, I'm all for people like finding a niche they like, and I know like Rich just plays live. I think that's cool that he's doing so well in it too. But yeah, sweeping the top 10 is pretty good for me in live. So I'm sure that helped for the period. Rob Deer in the Headlights at number 1. It would be cool if you could see how much of this is traditional versus live PD. I'd be really curious to know what the split is. Spy Face Jane 15, right behind Rich Grisham. I did not make the top screen, which I'm not surprised. But we are number 38, so that's a big improvement. We moved up almost 80 places with a really solid week. So that's nice. So we are fully in qualifying position there. The Llamas, though, unfortunately, are nowhere to be seen. All my accounts play some live, so I'm looking for all of them. There's a franchise team at 117. They moved up 8 spots. That's good. And I like the PTCS live tournament, so I'm hoping to get in because I like playing that tournament a lot. The Llamas just outside of 133rd, so I'm hopeful we can get them. And they moved up 70 spots to get really within striking distance there. That's a decent position to be in 133rd. that's definitely makeable from there. So that's a silver team. I'll probably start adding some gold live to try to get them some more live points, and see if we can squeeze into live there. That'd be really nice because I like that. I like those tournaments so much. I like the card set. I just like playing them. It's fun, and I like that you have to adjust every month when the cards change. 128th place cutoff is 88 points. All right, let's see. Let's start looking for some teams. Are there any more on this screen? I don't think there are. All right, we're looking for Low Diamond Phillips. Oh, they're in 169th. Okay, that's doable. That's definitely doable. Georgia Tech on my mind. 213. That feels a little less doable. That's a big jump they'd have to make there. Studs and Duds TTC. 269. It's even further out. And Hooked on Streamer Phonics. Do I play multiple live tourneys? It depends. The reason Hooked on Streamer Phonics and Studs and Duds are struggling is they only play live Iron, and they play the weekly live Perfect Drafts, and that's it. The Georgia Tech on my mind and Low Diamond Phillips, they play Bronze and Silver live, and then the Franchise High Machine and the Learning League Llamas, they play live PDs. So it's a different mix depending on which team. So Studs and Duds and Hooked on Streamer Phonics definitely have the hardest time because they're only playing one a day, and then they have 2 weeklies that are live. So if they don't spike a weekly, it's really hard to keep up. But that's the downside of playing multiple accounts is if you're on the same, if you have 2 accounts on the same license, they can't play in the same tournament, and there's only so many live tournaments to go around. So it is hard to qualify them all in live, which is fine. I think that's how it should be. It shouldn't be easy for one person to have like a bunch of entries into one tournament. Like even the traditionals, I spread them out, so all 7 usually qualify, but they're in 3 different levels. The only thing where I was getting like a lot of accounts in was I was getting four into PD Weekly pretty regular in PT27, and so right now I'm getting none. So here's the progression from week 1. We were in all the traditionals, but you can see like in Iron, I use this lighter green to say that you're in the top 100 in qualifying position, but out of the top 100. And again, like it got there's still 3 accounts that are pretty weakly in there. And then by week 3 right now, they're all solidly in. They're in the top 100. But if you look at like live, we had 1 qualifying, 2 qualifying, 1 solidly in, 1 barely in. And then if you look at the weeklies, we were actually in pretty good shape in PD Weekly in week 1, and then the position just kept eroding because I'm just not doing well. Now all 4 are not qualifying right now. So a couple of those weeks there were some gym unknowns because I just had a lot of stuff going on. I think one of those weeks I was still getting over being sick too. But I can't blame it on that. I just have not figured out drafting in OOTP27, especially weekly. Um, I think it's really interesting that it changes that much. The other thing too is like these two accounts. One is in 124th in Draft Daily. The other's in 408th. I'm the same person drafting all these teams, and these two accounts are both playing lots of live perfect drafts. So a lot of times they're in the same tournament. It goes to show how much RNG is involved. I'm the same person, so theoretically, I'm making very similar decisions. And one team is in 124th place and one team is in 408th place. Unless I'm like subconsciously trying harder for my main account, which I don't think I am. A lot of this difference is just either draft RNG or tournament RNG. And yeah, and you can see like even in like let's say these two, right? They're the same weeklies. One team's in 151st, one team's in 241st. I'm the same person drafting both and just having very different results. Hey, Cobra Cobra. So anyway, it'll still be fun though. I'll get at least get all the participation cards, which is nice. And then, um, I think draft. I mean, historically, draft is where I won PTCS and where went to the finals in PTCS. Um, I have a much better chance in draft than traditional because the card set is I have equal access to the cards in draft, which is why I'm a little bummed out that I'm not qualifying in draft right now because I'm getting in the traditionals, but I'm never gonna make it really deep run in traditional. I just don't have the variance or the card sets for it. And live, I think I have a chance too because the live card set is pretty you know an even playing field. It's not like there are a lot of live cards that are hard to get or that you have to you know grind the auction house to get. I don't know how people feel about the 24-hour auction period, but I also think it was easier for me to get into variants last cycle with the 48-hour auction period. I find that like with the 24, I just don't have enough time to keep up with it and like figure out when I need to be looking and I don't know. I felt like the 48 was more my speed. Um, yeah, so Cobra, it's a double edged sword. There'll be more chances to get points by participating in maybe more tournaments. Your number of slots doesn't change, so it's hard to you actually get into more tournaments. Um, but for people who just grind tournaments and they just get into the next tournament that's open, um, I think the velocity or the cutoff moves is going to be faster. So I actually think it might be harder for people who are kind of on the bubble to get in. So it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag there. The benefits and the drawbacks of having more tournaments to play. Yeah, science fiction. I don't know why it changed. I'm sure some people like it for whatever reason. I just find it harder to manage the 48-hour, and that's a me issue. Most of this stuff like I'm never gonna blame the game. I'm just gonna say that I'm just not able to adapt to it. Like the 24-hour cycle, I just find it harder to manage my time to follow those auctions. With the 48, I feel like I had a little more chance to kind of see what was going on and maybe participate in some of those auctions. Um, I don't necessarily think it's like a bad design or choice. It doesn't suit me. But again, that's a me problem, not an OOTP problem. Um, just like my performance in the weeklies, I'm pretty sure it's a me problem. I'm just not drafting well. I think my mental model just doesn't match what's happening in 27 the way it matched what happened in 26. Um, Although I think that's a fundamental difference too between how how I think about things and how some players think about things. Um, I see a lot of like looking like blaming everything but themselves. Usually my first suspect is me. I'm like, what am I doing differently or what am I doing wrong? Instead of saying like, why is the game causing me to lose? So that's just a fundamental difference, I think, in perspectives. LLB blames herself for everything. I'm more in that camp. I think blame is also maybe the wrong word. I always kind of focus on what can I do better instead of like saying why is the game out to get me. Well, that's true, Cobra Cobra. That might be a fundamental difference that people don't like to look in the mirror. Which is so funny to me because like what you see in the mirror, that's one thing you can actually change. If you think the game is out to get you, that's you can't change that. But maybe that's why they like it, right? Like that gives it takes away the agency, so it's not your fault anymore. It's someone else's fault. Well, then there's the LO yeah, then there's LOV's mode of I'm not winning, but I'm going to keep grinding. I've got a combination. I'm going to keep grinding, but I'm also going to look at like what am I doing wrong or what could I do better. Well, that's the bottom right line, right? See, Grizzly, as long as we're having fun, and I have fun trying to figure out how to do things better, which is why I do these experiments. Imagine being someone else's fault in the competitive game. Oh yeah, or even better when it's the RNG's fault, right? That's why I've got this. Because I would hear people complain about the RNG so much. Or and look, I don't think this is off. I do think the AI in a lot of cases does make I will say questionable decisions. But the thing is, like people who blame that are like, are they assuming the AI doesn't make bad decisions for other players too? It's just for them. Yeah, cognitive dissonance. The other one I learned is self-serving bias, which is a variant of the fundamental attribution error. And I used to see it a lot when I played poker. I used to play medium stakes poker, and I was pretty good at it. And but like there were some people who you know I knew some were like friends even before we started playing poker. They happen to also play poker, but then there's some people I met like in the course of playing poker, and this is their deal. When they win a hand, it's because they are good. When they lose a hand, it's because the person they're playing is lucky. It's a really great way to isolate, like, insulate themselves from ever having to question themselves and ever having to think like maybe I'm the problem. And so that was always one of my favorites. I win because I'm good. You beat me because you're lucky. Um, yeah, it's a very like self-serving, self-preserving way to look at the world. And oh, at least LLB, thank you for the 7 stream streak. Appreciate it. PTMS was crazy this past weekend. People were blaming all sorts of reasons for losing. Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, the expected value is half the time you should lose in the first round. In fact, I remember, and if the person's in the chat, I'm not making fun of them. I just think like it just goes to show how easy it is to lose sight of that. Where someone was asking like, I keep losing in the first round of tournaments, and I'm like, are you losing a lot more than 50%? Because that's kind of how much you should be losing. So yeah, so there's also that too, just like understanding just the fundamentals of like how a tournament field should work. Yeah, well, what I was saying about the RNG spot face chain though is that like I'm so bad at weekly this cycle. I don't think it can be RNG. Like it has to be me because the RNG could not be that bad for me that many times. Yeah, no, no. I totally agree with blaming the RNG sometimes, but my issue is the same people will blame the RNG when they lose, but they don't credit the RNG when they win. They credit themselves when they win. So that's my issue with people blaming the RNG. They don't blame it symmetrically. they don't give RNG credit when they win. They only blame the RNG when they lose. Yeah. So that's more. I mean, I can tell you, it's no one in this chat, at least that I've seen. It's a lot of times it's like people I see in other streams because I don't talk about a lot of perfect team here, so I don't get a lot of that in my chat, which is good because like it would drive me bonkers if I had to like. I would have a hard time not calling out that bias in my chat if it kept coming up in my chat. So well, also LLB, I'm not that great at updating my VODs too. I just sent a bunch over to YouTube today, so there'll be some new ones showing up there. Yeah, no, LLB, I agree. It is definitely like a personality. Uh, well, like I said, I mean, it's a bias. Like it's even got a name, right? So lots of people do it. I just think very few people recognize it in themselves. Holler says all things I have in perfectly attributable to RNGs. So that's great. Like if you're also giving credit to RNG, I mind less if then you blame RNG. It's the people who only blame RNG when bad things happen, and then they take the credit for being good when good things happen. That's when I'm like, do you not see what you're doing there? So I like that Holler gives credit to RNG when when he gets things. I wonder what the name would be for the person says everything I win is because I'm lucky. When I lose it's because I suck. I've never met that person before. Cobra Crow said those players will go back to Fortnite or pick a different game in a few months. There you go. Yeah, and I think also too, at least the way some people talk about the game, it's almost like they've lost sight of the fact that it's a probabilistic game. And and I think even with the meta cards and even with variants, I doubt you can push the advantage to more than 60-40 in a game or a series. Maybe you can push it higher if like your opponent is like truly bad. Um, but that also means like a lot of the percentage of the time you are still going to lose in the first and second round, and some people talk about the game as if like that should never happen, which is wild to me. Oh, did you say that, LB? Okay, hold on, let me scroll up. That is funny. Oh yeah, there it is. I got lucky rather than to get yeah, yeah, yeah. So my face. Would you agree? Like 60 is about the highest you could push it, unless you're playing like a ridiculously bad player, which I think is hard to find a ridiculously bad player. Um, just because there's so much information out there. And so if it's 60-40, you're still going to lose a lot of the time. But like some people talk about this game as if they're like shocked when they lose. And I'm like, how are you good at a probabilistic game without understanding how that applies to your own chances of winning? LV says the less introspective the personality, the more likely it is to self-serving bias. Well, yeah, that's right. That's right. You'll be blind to self-serving bias because you're not observing yourself. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about it that way, but that is true. Well, so in general, LOB, I agree. People have a poor understanding of probability, but some of these people who are saying these things are playing well enough that I would think they have a good understanding of probability. So I'm like, how are you simultaneously good at the game but bad at understanding why why you're still gonna lose. All right, let's see if I can get this experiment going. See, his win rate is about 8.5%. I'm gonna say that's not possible to be that bad, because even if you play low ball perfect team, I don't think you could lose that often. No, I should say unless you're Jim Unknowning. If you're Jim Unknowning, I think. All right, let's fire up. I thought maybe it'll go faster if I use as a starting point the previous batting experiment. I don't know if that's actually going to be correct, but I thought that might be a way to kind of speed things along. Let's see. So we'll open a quick start, and we'll open the experimental. Okay, dead ball. Now, what was the difference between bat and bat three? Let's see if I left myself notes. I did for bat, but not for bat three. It's not a 3x schedule because I think we did 5x schedule. All right, let's open this up and see. This will be an experiment in 27, episode 686. Wow, we're really approaching 700 here. Dead ball, bat, 2. Now, how am I going to distinguish between bat 3? I don't know, but but the episode number will help. The episode number will help. We're a little constrained by the fact that the character limit on the file names is pretty low. Alright, so Z Grizzly just played recently. I'm going to switch this back to my manager. And back to Japanese. Kimishima cannot be fired. We'll leave. Oh, we're not going to pick a team here. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. This isn't dead ball, is it? Was it dead ball? Oh, it is dead ball. Yeah, it is dead ball. Okay. Yeah, DB. Okay, it is dead ball. All right, so we're going to drop. So, surprisingly, it was Babip and Power that were the two most significant. LOB highlighted message. When you get a chance, could you remind me the episode numbers on YouTube when you built the teams players to do the Sims? If it's for the experiments, then yes, it did take a while. Oh, thank you, Flyfish Shane. 614 and 615. Hopefully those made it to YouTube. That's the part I don't know. That was the main reason I wanted to become a Twitch partner. Because a Twitch partner, all my VODs would be saved on Twitch. Right now they disappear. Oh, they are on there on YouTube. Thank you, Flyfish Shane, for checking that. Okay, so we're gonna replace avoid K with gap, and we'll replace I with speed. So let's rename the teams first. You know, I'm gonna rename them one at a time. Otherwise, I might forget which ones I did or didn't do. Okay, so avoid K gets replaced by gap. So we're gonna just do this first one. Okay, so let's fix this team first. So their avoid K is boosted. So we're going to take their avoid K down, and we're going to boost their gap power. So we'll take this back to 390. And we'll boost this up to... What were we boosting it to? 550? Yeah, 550. So we'll do that for every player. 390, 550. Actually, I wonder if it would be faster if I just do all the 390s first. And then all the 550s next. And of course, the hypothesis of why avoid K didn't matter as much in dead balls because there's just a lot fewer strikeouts. So if there are a lot fewer strikeouts, it matters less that you're good at avoiding strikeouts. Okay, so LLB wants to see one with decent avoid K but no BABIP. So that's where we do a series of experiments where we nerf one attribute per player, per team, to see which ones hurt the most to be bad at. The holler. I like that the holler highlighted this message. Why can I not insert a footnote in this stupid online Microsoft Outlook Word document? I want to leave stupid jokes and footnotes at work. This isn't actually important. Yet it's highlighted message. Oh, holler, that's awesome. I like that. And then gap, we boost to 550. We're going to go back up. And this should hit everybody. Yeah, I think it probably is a little bit faster than trying to work within each. Because I could just zip through these pretty quickly because it's the same action multiple times. Oops, until I hit the decimal by mistake. Okay, so now this team should be good. Oh yeah, gap isn't on here, so if we look at dead ball batting, there's gap. Okay. Yeah, see, Grizzly, I thought you did. I thought for sure it was your approach was reflecting some input from that dead ball experiment. Look at this funky logo they came up with for the team Avoid K. That's interesting. Okay, let's go back now and change the name of another team. So it's gap and speed for I and Avoid K. Okay, so BABIP, gap power. So I gets replaced by speed. Okay. The channel points are worthless with no rambling, right? I don't know. The most popular, well, by far the most popular redemption is Scritches for Crouton. And then, of course, second most popular are the community games. But yeah, I did take the rambling wreck one off. I just didn't think people would get that many channel points. And it was the first one I made just to test out the channel point redemptions. Alright, thank you for Scritches for Crouton. Hey, buddy, these are LME sprinters for you. That is true. To see what's more popular, I would have to make them all the same point value. All right, so let's take everyone's I back down to 403. And this one we're definitely gonna do separately because it's on a separate screen. So it just makes more sense to do these all at once. The question is, what are we going to take the speed up to? Because the scale is different. I can't just say 550 because it's a 1 to 250 scale. Okay, now we'll go to the speed. Oh, speed's down here. I think we usually go up to 225. I don't like to max it out. Like that's the reason I don't go to 600 up here. I go to 550, and so I think here we can go 230. I think that's probably a little closer to the equivalent of 550 to 600. I just worry that there are artifacts that might happen if you go all the way up to the maximum number. So running speed, I think, is the one people look for in dead ball. LLB, I thought you live in Atlanta. The Ramblin' Wreck is one of the fight songs for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and it refers to this vintage car, which at the time wasn't vintage, that they maintain and they drive out onto the field before football games. Yes, it is me rambling on about random things. That's right. All right, this is good because this is an experiment I've been wanting to do for a long time in dead ball. Okay, let's see how this team looks now. Speed is way up. What were they? I is back to average, so looks good. All right, next up we'll go to the neutral league. And avoid K. This became gap last time, so we'll do the same here. You have to click through it once before the change. Now the change appears. So hard to know what it is without a live performance. There used to be a really high channel point redemption that I thought no one would get to, and then Claydog and Slightly Jane both redeemed it. Yeah, and I'm not a good singer, so. But the thing is, when you're in a football stadium with like a bunch of other people singing it, it sounds great because all the people who are flat are offset by all the people who are sharp, and so it sounds pretty good. Let's see. We're gonna look at lineups. I'm gonna take their avoid K down back to 390. Oops, I think I did 392. Yeah, 392. 390. keep doing 392. Okay, 390. 390. 390. 390. 390. 390. Now, one thing we'd be looking for here is on the gap teams, does the batting average go up? Like the batting average goes up on power teams, right? Is gap adding extra base hits, or is it just turning singles into extra base hits? That's what's going to be, I think, interesting. What does it mean to unlock a random sub? I don't know what that means. Wait, is that what that means? You get a random. Oh, I see. A subscriber only emo for 24. I didn't realize that. That's one of the default ones that I. That's a good one. Okay, and now we're gonna boost gap to 550, right? On this team, yeah, team gap power. 550. Oh, I had a moment of panic where I was like, why are there 3 utility players on this team? And we had to add extra players because of dead ball. Oh, I appreciate that, LB. It would be fun to have more subscribers. And you'll be able to play the community games faster because you'll get your channel points faster. Alright, so I think this team is ready to go. Let's take another look. Gap is now up, and Avoid K is back to normal. I did think this said UTI. It's UT1. I was like, what? No, UT1. That's right. I called it. The last time I set that up, I was like, I bet I'm going to think this says UTI by mistake. Okay, I is the other one. Oh, wait, we need to go here. We're going to rename the I team. The I team becomes speed. It's our duty to give away as much of Jeff Bezos. Yes. Sadly, I don't think we can ever give it away fast enough versus how much he gets it from his various entities, and I'm sure from the increase in value of his equity. Speaking of getting rid of money fast enough, do you know what I was reminded of the other day when I saw it on TV? I forgot that Brewster's Millions can be considered a baseball movie. I had totally forgotten about that. Hey D Block, welcome in. We're doing another experiment tonight. All right, so let's set up this lineup. We're gonna take the I back down. Yeah, it's the Richard Pryor one, and the main part of the premise is he inherits 30. I think it's like $30 million. But if he can blow that $30 million, he can inherit $300 million. But he can't tell anyone that he's doing it, and he can't spend it on anything that will still have value afterwards. So he has to he has to just get rid of the money somehow, and there's like certain rules, like he can't just like burn the money. He has to actually like spend it in 30 days, I think it is. But the baseball part of it is that he's like a former minor league baseball player. Because I remembered him always wearing the Cubs jersey in the movie. I just thought it was because he was a Cubs fan, but I don't think he played for the Cubs, but he was a Cubs fan in the movie. But he was a former minor league baseball player, I think. He was a former baseball player. I can't remember who his majors or minors, but that was part of the premise of the movie that I had forgotten about. So next time there's any kind of list or conversation about baseball movies, you can consider Brewster's Millions. It was always one of those movies where I thought the premise was better than the actual movie itself. Like the premise was more interesting than the movie itself, but I I saw a little bit of it, and I remembered most of the part I saw, and it was pretty good. All right. Well, I think Claydog's studying cybersecurity, so maybe maybe Claydog can help Holler out. Yeah, D Block, I can't believe you fell for it. I can't believe you fell for something on Oak Island being an actual discovery. That's on you, D Block, for falling for that. D Block and I both watched this show that's been going on for like over 10 seasons now. And literally, season 10 is just like season 1. The same things happen in season 10 that happened in season 1. The same quote unquote discoveries. It's like the other day I was watching episodes on the DVR, and it went from like one season and it jumped like a few seasons, and I didn't even notice because the things that were happening were still the same. Oak Island LOB is a show where there's like reputed to be an ancient treasure buried on Oak Island, which is this island off of the coast of Nova Scotia. And these two brothers have been like, so there have been people exploring the island for hundreds of years trying to find this treasure. And these two brothers, in the last few decades, have like bought plots on the island and have partnered with other people who own plots on the island, and partnered with families who've been searching for a long time, and made a TV show about it. It's like a reality show. It's like D Block says, it's on its 13th season, and like I first started watching, was like, oh, this is an interesting premise, but then I started like realizing like it's always the same cycle of episodes where like they think they found something, and they change their approach, and then like it turns out to be nothing, but then they find something else that might be a thing. uh it's not quite um Al Capone's vault. Like they are discovering things a little bit at a time, but like they never really find anything. That's right. Nerd says the real treasure was the friendship they made along the way. Amazing. Amazing, Nerd of Anarchy. That was great. Okay, speed is up. Gap is down. I wonder if the speed is too high, because 90 is not on the scale of everything else, because I think the others went up to like 85 or 80. Yeah, so let's take that. I think maybe 225 was right. So I'm going to change those speed numbers to 225. I usually use 225. It turns out maybe that's right. You know what? It's a lot of change. If it does end up being super important, then we can look at like, did I overshoot it a little bit? But let's see if it's even that relevant. All right, let's save this. And how long is the season on this one? Let's see. That's here, I think. Okay, this is a 154. So let's save this as a quick start. And this will be Experiment in OOTP27, episode 686, Dead Ball Bat 2. And this is 1914, Run Environment, follow-up to episode... it's on the slide. Let me see. Episode 679. Boosting each team gets boosted BABIP, gap, power, or speed. 154 gig season. So we'll save this as a quick start. Now we'll change this to the 770. I think it's 770, right? 5. Yeah, 770. Oh, it's not a secret crush. I think Emma. I think the archaeometallurgist Emma Culligan is cute. I kind of liked her a little bit more before she got a little glammed up. She definitely got glammed up a couple seasons in. So we'll go to leave structure and then we'll generate a new schedule. That is true, D-Block. They do find some things. Like, they've actually found some interesting artifacts, but every time they find one, it just, like, it doesn't really lead to anything. So that's the part that feels like Groundhog Day. It's like, oh, we found this, like, lead cross. Or, oh, we found these glass beads. This lead cross that, like, the lead dates back to, what are they called? The Templars. Or, oh, they found these glass beads that they date back to, like, ancient Rome. Or, so they keep finding stuff, but, like, none of it gets them closer to gold or treasure. It could just be like the others are just shrinking and she's not shrinking yet. All right, so did I generate the new schedule? Okay, so now we'll save this as a different quick start. Actually, that's a simple enough change. Maybe that's why I didn't save it as a 5x, because that's a pretty simple change. So we'll just leave it as a quick start. Okay, let's do a random wheel spin right now before we start the experiment. And that'll keep us from being interrupted during the sim too. So let me get the wheel spin out here, and let me get a form. Sure, we'll copy this wheel spin form. All right, here is a link to the pack giveaway form. Link to form for tonight's first 5-pack giveaway. Good luck, everybody. right, and let's see how much time before the next ad break. Okay, this is a good time. I'll push 3 minutes of ads. That'll give us over an hour to get through the sim, which I think will be plenty of time. So I will see you all in a few minutes. Good luck, everybody, on the pack giveaway. All right, that's really weird. Usually, when I fire 3 minutes of ads like that, it pushes them out for like an hour and 10 minutes. But now it says the next ads are in 25 minutes. That's weird. All right. Anyway, we are back from the ad break. Um, is anyone else waiting to enter? Otherwise, I'm going to close the form and go ahead and start the wheel spin. Let's see. D block. I don't think you're in. Do you want to get in on this? I see LLB. I see Mayor of Anarchy. Smiley Face Jane, you're not in here either. I'm just looking to see who's been chatting, but it's not in the wheel spin yet. So. I mean, you don't have to enter, but I just don't want anyone to miss out on a chance for packs. Oh, I think we have a first-time participant tonight. We'll see the name when I fill the wheel. Oh, there were scritches redeemed during the break, so these are Nerd of Anarchy scritches, Crouton. There you go, buddy. All right, I'm not hearing anyone in chat asking to leave the form open, so I'm going to go ahead and close it. There are 7 of you tonight. Thanks for participating, everybody. That's a good turnout. There's like your best ratio yet. 7 participants for 37 viewers. Oh, that's interesting. The YouTube videos do not have the volume issue. Oh yeah. Smiley Face Jane. Yeah, I just mentioned that you weren't in here, so let me go ahead and reopen it. Okay, it's reopened, Smiley Face Jane, so you can go ahead and enter. D Block is the other one who was in chat, but I didn't see enter yet. So okay, maybe saying D Block's name again will help. Yeah, I saw D Block made a pretty deep run in PTMS in one of the PTMSs, so that's good. Yeah, this is one where LLB was actually able to fill it out in a prompt manner. The 2-question form. Alright, I'm going to close the form again. And let's copy these 8 names now. I think that's what those emotes are for, though, LLB, is for us to laugh at our own jokes. Alright, three pace, 8 contestants, so I'll do 8 shuffles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, good luck, everybody. Oh, are there any clumps of people here? I don't think so. There's a couple of Smiley Face Janes here. There's a couple LLBs over here. But other than that, everyone's pretty scattered. Alright, good luck, everybody. A Nerd of Anarchy, despite not being the last one to enter, wins packs. Winner. We'll do another one of those at the end of the stream tonight. Alright, let's go back to OOTP27. I think everything's set up here. So let's go to the standings view. And let's go to opening day. And we'll get our preseason predictions here. You see them being generated. Oh, did I not? I did not update the mailbox. Forgot to do that. And I probably did not update the manager options. These minimize the interruptions. Alright, so we are opening this, so we can go to MLB reports and info, preseason predictions. Team BABIP still dominating. Team Power still second. Speed and Gap Power trailing. Again, these are just the preseason predictions, though. We don't know if they'll actually play out this way. But we'll screenshot it just to see. And again, this is a 5x season, so the home run total is still it's 90, which is a lot for even for dead ball. That's a lot. Even in the National League, which we notice has more power in 1914, I think it's usually like 40 home runs per team, so it's about double. Um, yeah, pretty consistent between leagues. BABIP first, Power second, and then the other two trailing. Same pattern we saw with Avoid K and I, which is why they were dropped for this experiment. Let me just make sure that they were dropped for this experiment. Yeah, it is speed. Now you notice these used to be all 50. The ratings have been recalculated, right? Because now things have changed, so that's why they look a little different. All right. But the editor numbers are still the same. All right, let's run it. We'll go one calendar year at a time. That's true. Nerd of Anarchy did get the most recent scritches in, and then Nerd of Anarchy won. So I'm surprised Crouton has that power over my computer because he even startles himself when he's eating his dinner. So I'm impressed that he has the capacity to influence the random wheel spin. When he eats his dinner on a regular basis, he like jumps back from the bowl all startled because his name tag, his metal name tag, will tap the bowl and make this like clanging sound, and I'll jump back and look around like, what made that sound? And I'm like, oh, all right, the sound's gone. Let me start eating again. I'll jump back again. It happens every meal, breakfast and dinner, and it happens several times per meal. And he still never seems to remember that it's his own name tag. It's like it's happening for the first time every time. Yeah, so again, the standings this time do seem to be tracking with the run predictions we saw. Speed, I'm a little surprised. Speed trailing by so much, but it's actually in third place in the neutral league. Well, we'll keep going. This is why we do multiple seasons worth of games to iron out some of these um, RNG factors. Same with the ice maker in the fridge. Oh, does it scare your dog every time? Yeah, it's funny. You would think they would learn because dogs are pretty smart. But hey, buddy. Oh, did you hear me making fun of you getting scared at your own collar? Are you here because you heard me making fun of you? I just gave him some stretches because he came over. Oh, it's a kitty cat. I mean, cats are pretty clever too. But yeah, I'm surprised that they don't learn. Or even if it's not learning, I'm surprised they don't acclimate. All right, we're into about halfway through the second calendar year. Again, as the sample size increases, you can see like both leagues starting to kind of converge towards similar outcomes. But again, we don't use win loss record because there's too many things that can uh, compound to make odd win loss outcomes. So we go strictly by runs. For a batting test, we're going to go by runs scored. Which batting attribute, when boosted, increases the runs scored by the most? Yeah, okay, so that's true. I think the negative things they seem to retain better, which is kind of sad, but okay, it is January 1st of 2007. I think this is a 154 game season. It ends in 2007. Yeah, so I think our 162 5x goes into 28. No. I think it goes into end of August the 27th. So yeah, it's about 2 months longer. But we're gonna go to the end of the regular season. We'll play that last. We'll sim that last day, and then we'll look at the stats. And the thing I have to reiterate is, if Gap doesn't show up big in here, it's not to say Gap doesn't have an effect, right? The Gap team is almost certainly going to lead the league in doubles and maybe triples. But the point is whether those differences are translating into runs. And we know in the last experiment, the BABIP boost does translate into a bunch of runs. Oh, so not only did she imprint on that, but then it keeps her from learning other things. Okay. So we have one more game to play. And Nerve you thought there's a no-hitter. We can check that pretty easily through the achievements. Here, I'll show everybody. I learned this from Smiley Face Jane. You go to MLB. Oh, no. It was... I learned from Smiley Face Jane to turn off achievement notifications when we're doing playoffs. I think this was Kitty Poo Poo, right? Who... you can go to league history index, and accomplishments. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 no-hitters. Wow, 2 of the no-hitters were against team... Oh, no, playing for Team BABIP. Okay. Yeah, none of them were against Team BABIP. I would have been surprised if any of them were against Team BABIP. So 6 no-hitters that year. That season. Well, 6, but it's a 5x season, so really one per season, roughly. All right, let's go look at the stats. So Team BABIP leading both leagues in runs by a pretty big margin. The only teams over 3,000 runs. Team Power, the only teams over 2,600 runs, 2,690, 2,779. Team Gap actually had the third most runs, 2,300. And then Team Speed, under 2,200 in one league, over 2,300 in the other league. I think the difference between Team Speed and Team Gap is probably noise. But I do think there are meaningful differences between those two, Power and BABIP. And like I said, Team Gap had... Oh, this is interesting. Team Gap had the most doubles, but Team BABIP had almost as many doubles. That I was not expecting. Team Speed had the most triples. I was expecting that. But I think the point is that those triples for Team Speed and the extra doubles, and there were more Team Gap also the second most triples. The extra doubles and triples not really generating more runs than Power or BABIP. They're probably generating more runs than a control team where nothing is boosted, but they're generating fewer runs than the boosted Power team or the boosted BABIP team. And so, yeah, so Speed, Gap, Avoid K, and I all seem to be kind of distant third to Power and BABIP. I'm just surprised BABIP is generating more runs in 1914. So that's interesting. D-Block, I'm going to disagree with you because the speed here is so high, it's off-scale speed, so it does not match our usual experience with baseball doubles and triples. So I'm going to disagree with that. That should not happen no matter the speed. 90 speed is ridiculous speed. And I don't think our brains are used to calculating for that. And it's not even that much more. It's actually pretty similar. It's 724 and 699, 761 and 726. I don't have a problem with those numbers. Yeah, that's true, Holly. Your guy who had 57 triples had like 20 some doubles, right? Well, I can't just show him that because I'd have to exit this sim, so it's not that easy secretly. It is posted in the Discord, though. He can go look at it in the Discord. So look, each team is exhibiting the results you would expect, right? Hits are higher on Team Babbitt. Home runs are higher on Team Power. Um, Triples are higher on Team Speed. Doubles and triples are higher on Team Gap. But it's whether or not they translate into runs or not, and they are not translating into more runs than Power or Babbitt. And Team Power, it's not crazy power. It was I think 85 on the editor scale. I think we can see it if we go. I think it'll still show the. Yeah, it was 85 power, which is not. I mean, it's above scale, but it's not crazy. It's not outside of what you would see on some perfect team cards, right? 85 power, the equivalent of 85 power. And that's still generating enough home runs in 1914 with the run environment modifiers that it's creating enough runs to be second most impactful behind Babbitt. And so drafting or picking for gap and speed, it's probably still going to give you more runs than taking players that don't have that. But it's not going to give you more runs than taking a guy who has high Babbitt. So these two attributes are probably still helpful. They're just not as helpful as Power or Babbitt in 1914. The other thing that's missing here is grounding into double plays. I think if I do it here, right? We can add grounding to double plays here. This is the other place where speed helps. The high speed team has much fewer double plays. Interestingly, Gap Power has the second fewest double plays. I was not expecting that. Oh, the other thing I wanted to look at was does Team Gap Power have a higher batting average the way Team Power usually does in modern era? And it doesn't have as much of a boost in batting average. So Team Speed is the only one that doesn't have any kind of potential batting advantage. So without that, you would expect them to hit 214, 220-ish. So, right, Team Gap is hitting about that same amount. So what that means to me is the Gap is operating on a different model than Power. In Power, each of these home runs is an additional base hit that's contributing to a higher batting average. And so let's see if those numbers tie. So this power team had 408 home runs, which is about 460 more than you would expect. So if I take their hits, 6231, and subtract 460, and then divide that by the number of at-bats, 26 by 25, we get 217. Yeah, so even in dead ball, right, we see the same mechanism we see in modern, where the home runs are additional base hits that are not accounted for in the avoid K BABIP contact calculation. So the reason this 235 is higher than 214 or 223 is because these home runs are additional base hits. If you look across these two, gap batting average and speed batting average are about the same. So to me, that means the extra base hits that come from gap are not additional base hits. Those are just modifying existing base hits and turning singles into doubles and triples, or maybe singles into doubles and doubles into triples, however the mechanism works. But they're not adding additional base hits. And to me, that's why that double dip, even in 1914, where there are a lot fewer home runs, that double dip I think is adding a lot of the value that power gets, and that's very specifically a mechanism of the game, and not a real baseball mechanism. And I wonder if, and again, I always talk about the difference between real baseball truths and OOTP truths, right? A real baseball truth is only true in OTP if it's coded that way. And I think because power is coded to give you that double dip, and gap is not coded to give you that double dip, I think that's why power is showing up as still more valuable than gap, even in 1914. There are so many fewer home runs, but each one is still an additional base hit, that it's boosting the offense more than gap is. And that's my whole reason I've never been a big fan of gap, even in dead ball, is because I always understood it as modifying existing base hits and not adding base hits the way power does. And so this seems to confirm that. And again, it's not to say high gap is not worth more than no gap. It's just showing up like it's not worth as much as high power, even in 1914. I and avoid K were like similar to speed and gap, where they just did not outperform power and BABIP. That's why they were dropped for this experiment. I know Smiley Face Jade is a fan of gap, and I know, especially for dead ball, I know Ezra Denny is a big fan of gap and speed for dead ball. And again, they are probably both better than not having gap and speed, but they're apparently not better than having power or BABIP, at least in the base game. No, Smiley Face Jade. I understand that, but but I don't think you're taking high power guys over high gap guys, right? But this says you probably should. And to be fair, I wasn't taking high power guys either. I was taking BABIP and I guys. I'm not, and this isn't enough to convince you I should. That fair enough. Like I said, this is a base game test. It is not a perfect team test. I have shifted my behavior though in dead ball. Instead of focusing so hard on BABIP and I now have been looking a little bit more at power, even in 1914. I'm not sure about 1910, because 1910 is going to nerf power even more. But directionally, this has me still looking at power now, even though it's 1914. Yeah, but then Lisa Loves Body, that's not a fair comparison though, because the whole point of this is we're isolating individual attributes. If you pair them, of course they're going to be higher because you're boosting two. So you would have to do like BABIP gap versus like power I, or like you. Even that though gets problematic because the whole idea here is we're trying to only change one independent variable at a time, right? If you start combining them, then it gets really hard to distinguish what's causing the change to the dependent variable. DLS says I always use lowering the gap scale in the development section to add it to BABIP power control for EMLB. Oh, for modern, I especially ignore gap. If you're talking EMLB in modern, and I know Slyface J doesn't agree with that either, but like and it's for the same reason that I just explained. Like, if you're modifying existing hits, to me, that's like window dressing compared to adding a home run or compared to adding a walk or compared to adding a base hit. So that's why it's the relative value of gap. It's not that I don't think gap isn't helpful. I just think it falls behind all the others in terms of like the relative run creation power it has. And it's strictly because of the way the game calculates it. It is modifying base hits that you have to get through other means. It is not adding base hits the way power does. So that's my big. So is this enough to ignore speed? And say, yeah, and but I don't have to change anything. I already ignore speed. I looked at base stealing, but I've been ignoring speed for a long time. And so it definitely doesn't say I should look at speed now. Yeah, so LLB, that would be a more compelling experiment to me. There would be a BABIP gap team, a BABIP power team, a BABIP I team, and like a BABIP speed team, right? Then BABIP is no longer an independent variable. BABIP is now consistent across all four teams. So then you're back to having one independent variable. So you're just adding another element that's fixed, which is, to me, that's I think that would be a very interesting experiment. And we've done that experiment. We did an experiment with like what powers best with what pairs best with power in modern era. Well, so yeah, so I figured that's hitting on something that we don't control for in this experiment. Where if you have high power and then that comes with like low avoid K and low whatever, right? Like that we haven't recreated here. And even when we do the nerfing experiments, we only nerf one thing at a time, just like we only boost one thing at a time. So yeah, so then you're getting into uh, the whole constellation of like then you're pairing boosts with nerfs, and then that gets extra complicated. Right, you're very rarely going to see a card that is like flat with one spiky thing. Um, like the live David Peterson comes to mind, where like everything's almost 70, and I think his home run suppression is like 96 or something. Right, he looks like one of these experiment profiles. Um, and I'm actually hard pressed to think of a batter that looks like that. There are a couple because I remember seeing them in drafts recently. Well, like most of the profile is 70s and their power is like a 95 or something. I want to say like maybe Adelise Garcia or Joe Adele or someone like that is like flat with just the power boosted, but they're rare. But again, these are all directional things, right? And so to me, the eye-opening thing about this experiment was even in 1914, because of the double dip, power does seem to be boosted. Power seems to be more relevant than these other attributes. But BABIP is still king by far, and so that's definitely not going to change. I'm mostly BABIP Like when I say I was BABIP I and now I'm going to be BABIP power, it's still 80% BABIP, 20% I, and 80% BABIP and 20% power. Maybe even 90-10. Like I'm primarily looking at BABIP. And so that's not going to change at all. What's up with the walks for BABIP versus others? So this is, I think the walk number is only up by 100. I think that could be explained by the nearly 1,000 more plate appearances. So I think because BABIP is generating more base hits, like it generated, like over 1,600 more base hits. It's generating more plate appearances, and that's generating the walks. The walk rate is probably not going to be that different. But I think that the more walks just comes from having more plate appearances. But no, LB, keep bringing these things up because every once in a while someone brings up something like that, and I'm like, I cannot explain that. Like the more stolen bases for speed, it's just because they're taking more attempts because of the cost ceiling is higher too, and that's a weird thing that we showed in modern era, that speed is controlling the number of stolen base attempts more than the stolen base setting slider or the stolen base rating itself. That and it used to be that speed was tied to stealing aggressiveness. It was supposed to have been disaggregated for that when they introduced stealing aggressiveness as its own metric, but it still looks like speed is controlling stealing, and it looks like it's still doing it in 1914 too. But that came about from us looking at the data and looking at like why are stolen bases up, but the stolen base percentage is the same, and so that's what that came from. You're bet. D Block, as soon as you say EMLB though, that's modern era. So to me, like that has nothing to do with what we're doing today here. 56 BABIP, 61 avoid K, 24 gap, 76 power, 60 I, 59 to 81 stealing. Yeah, power is still that's no one's debating that. D Block, our modern era tests show that power is still by far the king. No, LB, I don't mind you typing those things before you think, because eventually one of them is going to trigger something that's like, oh yeah, like I can't explain that. I don't want people to censor themselves just because we figured out like, yeah, the modifier. Well, we need the modifiers to get the era. Are you saying the secondary modifier, smiley face, Jane? They are not on. We do not recalc, if that's what you mean. The league modifiers are on. We do not recalc. Oh yeah, D like that makes sense. And plus you're going to be on a lag too because of the Twitch lag. So yeah, the modifiers are on for the era, but they are not on for recalc. If that was your question, Spy Face Jane. So when the teams get boosted, they're not going to get nerfed then because of the era, or because of the modifier. It's it's uh it's set up to not recalc. And actually, we have enough new viewers and users now that I should probably rerun that League of Babe Ruth sim, because that really helps people understand how the modifiers work. I think it still helps me learn it too, like remember how it works too. That's a big sim, I think, in the kind of And you know what? It may run differently this time now that we have a single season import. We didn't have that the last time we did it, so it would probably be worth doing it again. Both to get better results with a single season sim, but also to help new players understand how the modifiers work. But yeah, so I think in general, this isn't going to change. The change already came from what we saw in the first 1914 tests, where I'm still super focused on BABIP in that era, but then my secondary went from I to kind of I and power, because. But if I were going strictly by this, then I should just be looking at BABIP and power. And I think in 1910 it probably does help that I'm still looking at I, because power is going to be nerfed even more in 1910. But I was just shocked at how well power did in both of these experiments. I just thought it'd be nerfed out of existence by the era modifiers, but they just weren't. And so even at that lower number of home runs, the double dip effect is powerful. I think more than anything, that's what this highlights. It highlights two things: that BABIP is super important for dead ball, because all the other things are nerfed out of priority, and then the other thing is how strong the double dip factor is. That's really like what comes through here, is that it's the double dip effect of these home runs that's really doing it. Nerve Anarchy with switches for Crouton. Here you go, buddy. These are Nerd of Anarchy switches. I mean, it is time to do the other wheel spin and raid on out of here. So I think let's go ahead and let me copy the form from 682 again. 682 numbered. It won't let me copy the same form twice in the same session for some reason. I'm assuming there's a good reason behind it, like files getting corrupted or cross-referenced in a troublesome way, but 682-2, there it is. I'm going to open this one and copy it. Yeah, LLB. I'm glad you like them too. Like the whole reason I started these particular ones is because like I wanted to know what mattered, and I have done experiments where we test out different shapes. Like you talked about the low BABIP shape. Um, the problem with that is like again we're like messing with a bunch of variables at the same time. Um, but I think the way to do it maybe is like we keep the number of points across all the attributes the same, because like right now everything's 50, right, because it's complete average. So if you look at avoid K, BABIP, power, and I, let's say it's modern. We'll revert back to modern for a second. That's 200 points. And so one thing I always wondered is like, okay, well then what distribution of those 200 points is the best, and what's the worst? Right? So if a power I guy is like 20, 20, 80, 80, like how does that compare versus an 80, 80, 20, 20 guy? And so those are the things that, but that's just harder to do and harder to set up. But I'm interested enough in it that I might do it, especially I have partners in crime in the chat who are also interested in it. Because when it's just me, then it just feels like I'm really going down like a rabbit hole of something only I'm interested in. All right, here is the link for spin number 2. chat. Good luck, everybody. Would I be willing to change the player overall scale 1 to 100? Well, we did change it to 1 to 100 to set up the averageness because it was being obscured by the 5-point buckets. And so the averageness is based on a 1 to 100 scale. And then I just turned it back to the 20 to 80 because that's what I'm used to seeing. And so when I but the 550, I mean we can, but like I'm more concerned about how it's changing in the editor mode. So that's why I always go 5, like I ignore the ratings. I just set everything to 550. And so that's why sometimes we have things that are 80, sometimes things are 85. And so like arguably that could throw off the results, but to me in the base game, that's actually like dead on to use to go by the editor value. Oh, check it right now? Yeah, we can check it right now. So let's take a quick look to see like what they look like right first. So BABIP is an 80. Oh, but this is already, you can see it's already changed because we I don't know whether it's because it went to the postseason or whether we whether it was whether we went started the season. But this used to be all 50s and an 80s. But now that they're 80 powers, this team's a 40 power. Now that they're at 85 gaps, this team's a 45. So some of this has already started changing. But we can still. But anyway, BABIP is 80. Gap is 80. Power is 70. And speed is 90. So now if I change the settings to, where is it? I think, no, players and team? No. Oh, global settings. Rating scale, 1 to 100. Okay, so now BABIP is 98. Gap is 104. Power is 88. Speed is 90. So on a relative scale, power is even nerfed a little bit here, and it's still coming in second. So and what was the highest? BABIP 98. Gap's coming at 104, and it's still finishing tied with speed for kind of last place. And I don't think BABIP is overpowered. If Gap is 104, BABIP is coming in at 98. So I don't think BABIP's overpowered, at least to the extent it would explain why it's so far ahead of all the other ratings. Now LLB. So the thing here is when you look at the editor rating, which I think is the purest rating, right? Because this is kind of like the behind the scenes number, right? This does change relative. Like the ratings are relative to the league, and so what happens is because now one team has a bunch of players with. So before we started the season, you probably noticed like these were all 50, except for the one thing that was boosted. But now, whatever happened, whether it's because the season started or because we're now going into the second season, these are now no longer 50 because there are teams with 90 or 88 power. So the teams that don't have 88 power now are suddenly like rated lower in power. Now, no one has boosted I, so that's why all the teams still have 50 I. And no one has boosted Avoid K, so that's why all the teams still have 50 Avoid K. But because there are teams that boosted BABIP, if you don't have boosted BABIP, you're no longer 50 BABIP, you're now some number lower. Because all the ratings are relative to the league. and so it starts to get a little messier as you go on. It's nice and clean when we start it though, which makes it easier for me to set up the experiment. And then what Slyface Jaden was wondering is like, instead of looking at the 20 to 80 rating, can we look at the 1 to 100? The 1 to 100 exposes a few things. The 20 to 80 will add higher levels. It'll go to 85, will go to 90, will go to 95. It will not go to 15 or 10 or 5. 20 is a hard floor. 80 is not a hard ceiling. And so it's a little asymmetrical that way. And the 1 to 100 shows that a little bit better. You're looking at the overall. Okay, hold on. You want to look at the overall rating? Oh, instead of stars? Well, this we can only go to 20 to 80. We can't go to 1 to 100 for the overall rating. Do you want me to go to 20 to 80? Okay, let's go to 2080 for the overall rating. So this is the Babbitt team. The gap power. Yeah, so the overall is already kind of showing you the relative, at least what the algorithm is calculating based on the ratings. It's definitely valuing gap less. But I think this is a modern era bias. I don't think the algorithms are calculating overall. It's the same reason why the star values are distorted when we play dead ball, because it's looking for modern ratings and it's penalizing the dead ball shapes. And it's going to love these power teams because it's looking for power. I think the overall rating is very biased for modern era. And I think the overall rating is more of a reflection of the algorithm the computer uses to assess overall value of a rating. I don't think it feeds into any calculation. I think it's more of a I think this is more of a reporting value, not a input value. And then team speed is again lowest because the power's not nothing else is boosted. So, but again, it doesn't necessarily play out this way, so because I think it's got this modern era bias to it. Right? Because according to this, team power should be better than team Babbitt, but that's not what we saw. And it's because this overall value is calculated, I think, using a modern algorithm, and it's not adjusted to the era. Because if it were, then the team Babbitt ratings, overall rating, should be higher. It's also the reason why when you ask the AI for a lineup in dead ball, it gives you like a nonsensical lineup because it's overvaluing power. Yeah, here's power again. Right, so in general, these ratings for power are higher than these ratings for Babbitt. But in this era, these Babbitt ratings, overall ratings, should be higher because Babbitt is more valuable in this era. But I think the algorithm has a modern bias, and it's not calibrated to the era properly. And again, you see it if you ask and this is why when you play dead ball creator roster, it's probably very frustrating because the AI lineups are not going to be what you would do given the dead ball era. So if there were ever a creator roster game where I would open it up to more tinkering with a lineup, I would start with dead ball. But again, I don't do it just because it's partly a time constraint, and also partly like I think games that have inherent challenges are more interesting, and I think having to overcome or deal with the challenge of a modern based uh, computer manager trying to organize your dead ball lineup is an interesting puzzle to try to influence or solve. But yeah, so let me restore these before I forget. So this will go back to 20 to 80. This will go back to stars. And then this should look normal again. Yeah, there you go. But again, like an 80 BABIP guy in dead ball, this should probably be like a 4 or 5 star guy. This is getting a 3-star rating. And then on the team power, okay, so the shortstop's 4.5 stars. On BABIP, it's 4 stars. Based on results, the BABIP shortstop should be rated higher. But the stars, I think, are being calculated using a modern algorithm, and so the power guy is still rated higher. Yeah, no, exactly. And that voice, LB, that voice saying, "What are you doing?" I For me always gets louder if the era or ballpark factors are further away from modern. Holler says the me paradox. I love doing drafts in older years because I think I will adjust for the era when drafting better than other people. But I do not usually bother to adjust the AI lineups because I'm lazy. Amazing. Sci-fi I'd just be wary of doing power and dead ball and perfect team because overall, and perfect team also has that modern bias. There won't be many viable bats that have a lot of power. I mean, but I think that's. I mean, okay, but I think that's baked into how I explain these things, right? I'm testing one variable at a time, and I'm testing them in a specific era. Um, I think this is more useful. No one's playing like an online league in 1914. I think that would be interesting. I think that should be the next online league. It's a dead ball online league. If I were inclined to do an online league, that's what I would do. I would be the dead. I would be the dead ball online league. That's where I think this stuff is the most useful. Is like when you want to boost something. Oh, for me changing my drafting strategy? Yeah, Spy Phase, you're probably right about that. You're probably right about that. But I do think it showed that I was probably overvaluing I in Dead Ball. I was probably going like 65-35 BABIP and I. And now I'm probably going 80-20 BABIP and Power. And in general, I think directionally it helped me out because I just put more weight towards BABIP than I was before. Okay, so you guys want a dead ball. I mean, I'm running out of days with between the community games and the experiments. Um, Also, man, I managing an online league just looks so time consuming. Oh, LB, that's a really interesting question. Whether bunting rating, how important bunting rating is in dead ball. I haven't even thought of that. I did look at it for pitchers, but I never thought about it for overall. Maybe we should just do like an experimental. You know what we can do. The way I did the team of streamers in OOTP 25 and 26. So what I did was like I just asked everybody who their favorite baseball player was. And so mine was like Ken Griffey Jr. So I put Franchise Griffey Jr. and Smiley Face James was it Maury Wills? I think it was Smiley Face Wills, and who was EVC? Oh, EVC's was Fernando Valenzuela, so it was EVC Valenzuela. And so I renamed all those players and brought them in as 18-year-olds. And we simmed a few seasons, so it was pretty fun. Like, we could do a dead ball version of that. We can just have everyone in the late night community pick a dead ball player, and or generate a dead ball player. We can put them into we can take over a team in 1914, and just see what happens. I'll do a power. I'll do a gap. I'll do a BABIP power guy. Smiley Face Jane can do a to do a BABIP gap player. Yeah, there was D Block Apier. Yep. Yeah, I don't know if there might be more ads just because I didn't follow the usual ad. I try to preempt ads by forcing them at certain times, and we didn't do that today because I was doing the PTCS update first. So it could be that they're just more random ads tonight. All right, it's getting late. I also have to do some real work too. I don't know if anyone uses Gmail for their work, but they stopped supporting POP3, so our web hosting was sending emails and our Gmail isn't getting it anymore, so I have to change around how I set it up. So let's get ready to raid out. Tugi is not doing Wario, the Wario Road to the Show, so I think we'll raid into Ophi tonight, because last night we raided Marbek, and so I think we'll go back to raiding Ophi tonight. Hopefully we did not miss the Geo quiz. This has become one of my favorite parts of Ophi's stream. Oh yeah, you don't have to thank me, D-Block. I like Marbek. I like raiding into him, and I asked him, please keep streaming in Spanish, because I feel bad that when we raid into him, he switches to English, which I appreciate because he's trying to accommodate the raiders. But I like listening to him stream in Spanish. So. Networking with Squirkus Recruiton. Let me go ahead and deliver those. You know what? I just realized I'm about to raid out. We didn't do the wheel spinner, did we? For pitchers, do you want a high HR rating or low? If it's dead ball, I would assume it doesn't matter because there's so few home runs. Or I mean, it matters, but it would be low priority for me along with stuff. But we can test that out too. I mean, the whole reason I set up this experimental league, the dead ball version, was so we can do all the tests. And so the pitching test would be the next one I would wanted to do, or maybe the nerfed batting test. We've been doing boosted batting test. The nerfed batting test in modern was not symmetrical, so I think it could be very informative to do it in dead ball too. So, but yeah, eventually we'll get to pitching in dead ball. But my assumption, Senor, is that stuff in HRA matter a lot less in dead ball than they do in modern, just because there are fewer strikeouts and fewer home runs in dead ball. You right, buddy? That little squeak he let out is what happens sometimes before he has one of his syncope episodes. So that's a little concerning. I'll take him for a quick walk after we raid out. My hypothesis is now that when his body is stressed out from having to hold in, like not going to the bathroom, that it's more likely to happen. So I've been trying to take him out for more bathroom breaks during the day. Oh, a high HR rate. So the HR rating is home run. Think of it as home run suppression. So a higher HRA rating means you're better at suppressing home runs. A lower HRA rating means you're worse at suppressing. In general, higher ratings are better. So on defense, a higher error rating means you commit fewer errors. So the ratings are all scaled so that higher is better. I can't think of an exception to that. I think they're all better being higher. Yeah, so higher avoid K means you strike out less. Higher home runs home HRA means you give up fewer home runs. So I says it reminds you of sports games where injury ratings for having the max injury is actually, yeah. The only place where the only place where OOTP I think messes that up is in the game settings. I think it can be potentially very confusing because some things are enable and some things you check to disable. And so there's no consistency between are you enabling or disabling by checking it or unchecking it. And so that can be potentially confusing. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't D block. I don't think that lower bunting necessarily leads to fewer bunting attempts. Um, but then again, I've never tested that, so who knows? Also, Senor's been doing that backwards this whole time. That's amazing. Well, I'm glad we were able to help you learn something about the game. Now go ahead and bench Floyd Bannister. That Floyd Bannister profile must have looked so good to you then, if you thought the lower HRA was better. Well, I'm glad we were able to help you understand that. That's great. Castanero is not the best second base defender, exactly. All right, is anyone else is anyone else wanting to enter the packaway who's not entered yet? This is your last warning. And I think someone's entered twice, so I'm gonna have to delete one of their entries. The person who entered most recently, I'm gonna delete your first entry. Okay. Oh yeah, I think the error ratings 515 is definitely very potentially misleading. And I wasn't laughing at Senor. I just thought it was funny that like we're completely changing Senor Dirtbag's view of the world. But I don't think it's funny that they misunderstood that rating. I think it's very easy to misunderstand that rating. And I think the error rating is even more prone to misunderstanding. All right, I'm not hearing any objections to closing the form, so I'm going to go ahead and close that form. And let me copy the list here. Yeah, that's true, D-Block. The coloring probably does help. All right, let me delete out the existing names here. Man, I think of all the stuff that we did tonight, the most helpful thing we did was help explain the home run rating to Senor Dirtbag. Forget the experiment. That was the most important thing we did tonight. All right, there are I think 8 of you. One was a double, so I had to delete that one. But yeah, I think there's 8. There's 8 unique. Wait, it's still copying it twice, even though I hit it. Okay, there we go. Once, twice, 3 times. Okay, that looks pretty good. So 8 entries, so 8 shuffles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know how I feel about this. Crouton loves Lisa. If it was Lisa loves Crouton, I think that's okay. But man, just this is a bold claim here. All right, let's see. Are there any clusters here? There's 3 Nerds of Anarchy interrupted by 1 Bronson Johnson here. That's the interesting one. I think everything else is pretty evenly split up. So oh, it hangs on for Smiley Face Jane. So many times that just ticks over to the next person. But Smiley Face Jane is our winner. Congratulations, Smiley Face Jane. Um, oh, you don't want that one going to your PAX only team? I'm a little surprised. I'm sure if Crouton met you in person, he would love you, especially if you gave him in person scritches. Oh, you don't have a PAX only team right now. Okay, got it, got it. All right. All right. Now that that's done, I think we can raid out. All right, that was a fun experiment. A little surprised, given the number of people who are very into like gap and speed for Deadball. I was surprised that it was still behind Power in terms of run creation. And again, like I said in the stats, I showed the stats. Gap is still generating more extra base hits. They're just not translating to more runs than Power or Babbitt. That's right. That's right. Senor's interpretation would be, oh, too bad Smiley Face Jane's the only one not to win packs. Nerve wracking. That would be an interesting experiment, except I don't really care about breaking the tie for last place. But that would be an interesting experiment. But I'd rather go on to like seeing um, which attribute is most painful when nerfed, because that's what we do on the modern side, and that's actually a very helpful experiment. So we'll try nerfing them next. But the question is, which ones do we nerf? Do we? I think we do what we did here, and we revert back to modern and go Babbitt, Avoid K, Power, and and I would assume, but I would want to show it, that Avoid K and I guess would be the least painful, and then we would move on to adding gap and speed. But who knows? I've been surprised by some of these experiments before, so it might not be the ones I'm expecting. But I don't know whether I'd rather do boosting pitching attributes first or nerfing batting attributes. But yeah, we can see. I think it'd be interesting to try that out. I mean, there's also a channel point redemption if you want to dictate the experiment. I'm pretty sure it's still up there. Let me see. I used to have a channel point redemption for you could set the experiment, and I would refund the points if I didn't think we could set up a good experiment for something. Because some things are hard to set up a controlled experiment for, even in the base game. Let me see if it's still there. What does it go under? Does it go under community? No. I'm trying to remember where the channel point redemptions sit. Bronson Johnson redeems select an experiment. All right, connect with me in Discord, and if it's something I think we can experiment with, or redeems to whoever. Okay, so I think LLB wanted the BABIP combination experiment. So it would be BABIP gap, BABIP power, BABIP I, and based on what we saw, probably we could do BABIP. Um, I could go look at the data and see what would be the next one that makes sense. But okay, so let me add that to the calendar then. This will be the Bronson Johnson redemption, and we'll do. I'll pencil it in for June 2nd. (1914) BABIP plus experiments. Okay, so I've got it tentatively scheduled for next Tuesday. Tuesday being experiment day. The main thing that can change that is if there are LEs out, I might make Tuesday a pack ripping day and move the experiment to Thursday. But so far, we haven't had that happen. The one time it did happen, like all the lower level LEs are already gone, so it didn't make sense for me to do ripping for those. All right, Bronson Johnson, thank you for that redemption, and we'll go ahead and run LLB's experiment next week. Or actually, I wonder if Tuesday should just be my experiment, and the redemption one should be in a like the Friday night slot, because it kind of takes the place of a community game, right? Because it's a community experiment. And then next Tuesday, I'll do the pitching attributes test. The 1914 pitching attributes. So that's what we'll do. Because the whole point of making a redemption was it would take the place of a community game night. So we'll do it Friday night, I think. Which means we'll get to it sooner, which is nice. All right, and then let me give those switches to Crouton. I think we have some more LLB. Yeah, these are LLB switches for Crouton. All right, so we're gonna raid Ophi, and then we will. I will walk Crouton, but then I'll be hanging out in Ophi stream after that. Oh, is anyone else playing OTP right now? Nope. I'm the only one streaming OTP as usual. Oh yeah, you got that last one in. Congratulations. Thank you for redeeming channel points for that. Alright, if anyone hasn't rated Ophi with us before, she is a pixel artist. Usually doing a yes, I'm the number one OTP streamer to steal Baffle's gimmick. I'm the number one OTV streamer right now. But yeah, Ophi is a pixel artist, usually doing cross stitching, occasionally doing some variety gaming. Last week did an IRL stream from a baseball game in Taiwan. She lives in Taiwan, and just super fun vibe in the stream, and her chat is super fun too. So I raid and hang out in her stream a lot, especially when there's not live sumo going on. So we'll go say hi to Ophi. All right, thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for the participation in the pack giveaways, especially this past week. There's been a lot of entries, so I really appreciate that.